Code task for you to purchase exquisite, classic, durable, and sturdy furniture that will last the test of time. Here is good news for you. Purchase high-quality furniture for your household, offices, hotels, and schools at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Office address, Goshen Plaza, Showroom 28, Kubo Furniture Market, AYA, Nyanya Road, Abuja. Telephone 0803 119 1444 or 09291 7482. Email princeemeka240@yahoo.com. info@princeinterior.com. Website www.princeinterior.com. Purchase your furniture at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Classic, strong, exquisite.
Leaders of the All Progressives Congress last night were in a meeting that has now been described as a race against time to pick the running mate for its presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari. That and some other political issues would be our focus and discuss of this second part of Cool Digest. And I'm joined now by Bola Onanuga, a public affairs analyst on the show. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning.
Earlier we discussed the important characters to look out for this particular position, especially as many already are of the opinion that the choice of the personality that will fill into the space would also impact on the chances of the APC come 2015. But the names are already on the papers, as there's a lot of expectation for APC to announce today. But as we speak now, it looks as if it's a close race between having a technocrat or a politician, a core politician, so to speak, occupying this particular space. What are your opinions along that line?
Well, it's a political game, so it's very important for them to pick somebody who will be most suitable for the job from the line of thought of their leaders. For instance, why, one, they cannot pick a Muslim ticket.
Okay.
It is practically impossible in this part of the world for them to pick. So any Muslim name that is being mentioned is only for the sake of joking. So there won't be a Muslim ticket. So someone like Tinubu cannot be there, Fashola cannot be there. So that's a stopping point. Considering the fact that it's a party that is just evolving.
Sorry, but someone like Adams Oshomole, you likely might not tell whether he's a Christian or Muslim.
Well, Adams Oshomole, all these people we're talking about, they are as good as any others. However, looking at the ticket as it must be, there must be a Muslim and there must be a Christian.
Okay.
That's the way it will be. Now, considering the other one that you have raised, Adams Oshomole. Adams Oshomole, under the configuration that you find in Nigerian political setting, you realize that the chairman of the party emerged from South-South.
Okay.
So it may be difficult to also pick the running mate from the South-South.
Okay.
So those names are just being brandished in order to make sure that the party remains a one cohesive house.
I see.
And because they will be giving the decision very late, before one person chooses to go to court or to start destabilizing the unity of the party, they will have finished their registration at INEC. Because you know by tomorrow, by 12 midnight tomorrow, whoever must have sent in his form and everything.
Yeah, that would also now bring us to the River State Governor, Rotimi Amechi, who obviously also is a major contender in this race. That personality, how does it fit if his name comes up?
Well, if his name comes up, there could be some level of attempt to break into the unity vote that will come from South-South for Mr. President, for the sitting president. So perhaps that will form part of the thinking. But you see, considering the method of his leaving PDP to APC, it will also be considered that such a person may become an OBJ Atiku ticket later on in life, whereby the two of them will have to be slugging it out inside the same State House. So that may be something that they will have to think, because there is no role for the vice president, just like there is no role for the deputy governors. It is whatever is an ad hoc role. In fact, in the time of Atiku, things were a little bit done, that Atiku was in charge of the economic activities of the government.
Okay.
He was in charge of privatization, he was in charge of the economy, he was in charge of several other things. But not that he was doing it alone. He has some advisors who will give him advice here and there and there and there, and then move on. So you definitely don't necessarily need a technocrat as vice president.
Okay. Well, let's move away, just a moment away from all of that. Yesterday, the presidency came up. Mr. President actually wrote a congratulatory message to the general for his 72nd birthday coming up today. But then there's a little contrast to that, because on one of the newspapers, I saw something very interesting, where the president also said that old people, cause of Nigeria's troubles. And then some are divided in between the goodwill of Mr. President actually congratulating him for the 72nd birthday, and on the other side probably emphasizing the age of this person at this time.
Well, I'm not sure if on account of Buhari that the issue of the age was mentioned. The role that the former president has been playing, talking, writing books, writing letters, it's not too, how do I put it now? It's not too acceptable.
I'm referring to Olusegun Obasanjo.
Yeah, it's not too acceptable to some people. And for a former president, you have to talk slightly low. For instance, I remember when Mandela left government in South Africa, there was crisis between Mbeki and the current president. There was no time Mandela ever spoke one word out about it. Even though he chaired several meetings to work out a peaceful deal, he never addressed the press. He never spoke to anybody. It is not impossible that some of the things he told them, they didn't accept it. He didn't go to the press. Obasanjo spent his 8 years. Nobody doctored his government. It is whatever he wants to accept that he accepts. Nobody went to the press that we spoke to him. He didn't agree. Here was the president who told his ministers that the day you are appointed is the day you write your letter of resignation. The responsibility of putting the date on it will be purely mine. When the time comes that you are to advise, whether we use your advice or not, it does not matter. Just give you advice and let the ball rolling. So there was nothing wrong in another president taking charge. If he didn't listen to you, too bad. And if he listens to you, too good. You have to accept it. Because former presidents don't also... I remember that IBB and OBJ, they were not saying eye to eye at a point. So if we are now saying that old people were the cause of Nigeria's problem, I'm not sure we're too far away from the truth. Because it is the foundation that they laid there, right from the time of first coming of OBJ, which he did very well. Some of us, we came out to realize that Nigeria Waste was booming, so many industries that the government owns, parastatals are doing very well when he was leaving. But you realize that the next people that came in, the politicians, vandalized government activities, hijacked things, and put it in personal, for their own personal use. So these are part of the problem. Buhari also came, truncated democracy at a point. Somebody also truncated his own government and took over. Just the economy was castrated from that moment on. And so what we are inheriting today, Obasanjo just spent $16 billion on power generation. There was no result as well. So if that was in 8 years, Obasanjo didn't construct the refineries. So he has no local standing to come accusing somebody that the person is performing below expectation, when what you actually released onto him were all-round problem, now compounded with the Boko Haram insurgency and few other things that will not... Of course, they spend the better part of the budget on defense equipment. And it's not... We didn't hear this under Obasanjo regime.
Well, what kind of relationship should exist between an incumbent president and former heads of state? Because especially at the time when Nigeria is battling terrorism, in the final?
Well, in the first place, what Obasanjo wanted was a master-servant relationship. You will not get it at that level. Because everybody have their responsible agenda. Two, it should be very cordial for the unity of the country, for the peace of the country. It should be cordial. But you see, a situation whereby some people in Jonathan's government go and be feeding OBJ with some other information, and some people in OBJ's government going to feed Jonathan, it will lead to conflict and breakdown of certain activities. For instance, the court says the man should not go ahead to publish My Watch. That's his current book. He now redefined it, that it was Thursday they say he should not present it, that he has moved it to Tuesday. I mean, what? How can you see a statesman conducting himself in that manner? Something that he could still do, send your lawyers to court, and then they vacate the injunction. And then you move on to do what you have to do without controversy. I mean, it's not too conducive. It's not conducive. It's not healthy for the country, because these are the people that we look up to, that they are to lead. It doesn't matter whether it's in government or not. It's one of the respected leaders of this country that people still run to seek opinion from and this and that. If he was played out in his own politics, that should not be something that he should come and be telling the whole nation. He spent his 8 years, so he should retire to his village. If they needed his advice, they will go there and sought for it. It's not that he should insist that this is what I want and it should be done. Fine, he brought the man into government. He gave him overwhelming support. He went around the country unifying people behind him. But that notwithstanding, at a particular point, if your dad in a home was having control over you because he gave birth to you, at a point he has to vacate that authority, because you also have your life to live. So the earlier is, OBJ is not the only guilty one. There are other former leaders that are feeling guilty as well, that the man is not listening to their advice, this and that. The problem of ruling a nation like us is enormous and very challenging. So, but you don't need to be the most intelligent person in this country to get it done. It's only that you have to seek advice from various positions, even from opposition. You realize that John Kerry was not in the party of Obama. Yet, he's the one that is muzzling the entire world to do things in line with the policy. We have to differentiate between policy statement and politics. We should stop playing politics with our policy. For instance, if today there's a law banning newspaper, those who will come next should not just vacate that order. What they should do is to call all the stakeholders together, negotiate with them, tell them how can we move on. Not about party. Let the opposition be present. Let them also hear their views. Now, the convergence of ideas is what we now bring us together to form a policy. It's not that PDP will do this today, APC will go another way. You will see that reversal of policies is one of our problems. Because there is no agreement. This agreement goes beyond party politics.
But if we dig deeper, what would you say is responsible for this politics of bitterness in such a way whereby the opposition and the incumbent party seem to be two parallel lines that never get to meet on any issue?
Well, that is because of the prematurity of our politics. We are still not mature. Our democracy is just evolving. And you expect these tantrums to end at a particular point. And now people are beginning to look at individuals more than parties. I remember the politics of Lagos. I mean, in the selection process of the PDP, which I monitored, and of the APC, which I monitored, I noticed that they put more effort in looking at the personality of the candidates, not the position of the godfather now.
I see.
It's the personality of the candidate that, okay, seeing a fresh face, there could still be other challenges for those candidates based on their party. I mean, party is the one that will present you, not you presenting yourself. But you realize that the mere fact that Ambode was brought out from APC was challenging for PDP to also bring out a technocrat as well, who is also a politician, so that they can have equal personality footing in the marketplace. That's before the electorate. So it's quite good. when you look at it from this point of view. But it's not that one party will do this. For instance, who will come to Lagos and say that last month is not a good idea? Who will come to Lagos to say that the banning of Okada, whichever party ruled, the banning of Okada was not the limitation for Okada driving? I mean, these are good policies. You can't take it away from the same government. The position of KAI is quite in order. The tax system is in order. These are commendable efforts. So no government will come, whether APC or PDP, will come and change it overnight. No. They can just play politics. For instance, it is impossible for any government to come and change the school fees of a place like LASU. Because what APC went through was that they were forced to beat a stampeded retreat after they lost Ekiti.
That's right. I see that. Well, let's move on. Let's just open the phone lines right now and give our viewership the opportunity to contribute on the state of the nation ahead of the 2015 general elections. Now, beyond all of that, also, people have started talking about how competitive the presidential election is looking to be in 2015. Yesterday, one of the special advisors to the president, I believe Donyo Okupe, likened Mr. President to Jesus Christ, and I believe he meant that he has come to save Nigeria, and indeed Nigerians no doubt will vote him in a second term. But what are those factors at this particular time that you think would work for or against the president in 2015?
Part of what will work against him is Donyo Okupe.
How do you mean?
One, you see, the position he occupies is not to be abusive. Nobody will be Christ. We will only walk at the teaching of Christ. By now, hell would have been let loose had he mentioned Muhammad instead. But the Christians are more comforting because we don't see such a thing as something that should cause furore. He will just be questioned intellectually for why he did that. Christians are not fanatical about anything. Not just in Nigeria.
Let me just hold you for a minute. Please don't lose that train of thought. We have Tochukwu calling from Anambra. Good morning, Tochukwu. How are you today?
I want to share my thoughts on the issues that has been raised there. You see, for me, I should have thought that by now the APC would have concluded on who become their vice president prior to the emergence of the presidential candidate. I thought they should have done that already. To me, I never expected that it could be causing so much delay and putting everybody in high tension. But that is on the other side. You see, I'm going to disagree slightly with you again. So, on the issue of Ameti, he made mention of Ameti. With Ameti, the block vote of the South will be divided. What have you? I beg to disagree. You see, except you don't know the South, that part of the country has an orientation and a sentiment that will continue to work for them, except it is not their brother who is over there. But as far as it is Jonathan or no other person. And if I'm to advise Ameti, I would advise him to forget about that ambition of becoming the vice president, because you will only be confirming the rumor and the fears of people that he is only fighting the president because of his ambition to become the president. And he will start losing some of the fans he has. So there has been a rumor there that Ameti is only fighting the president because he wants to become the president. So I would advise him to even forget about his ambition and stick to what he believes in. And so there was an issue being the problem of this country. No. I don't subscribe to that. Because accepting that OCP is our problem is like accepting never to grow old. My brother, listen, you need to go to the street. You will discover that the youth, the younger ones, are even the worst. They celebrate mediocrity. You find that you see a politician going into government and embezzle money. Instead of them to condemn that person, they aim at organized programs and give him an award. Stakeholders in the state will be trusting to be his special advisor, PA on all areas. So it is not actually the old people. The things are going bad. You need a total reorientation. So that is my contribution for today.
Oh, thank you very much, Chiku. Good to hear from you. Where do we start from? I think we should quickly touch on this issue of young people. and the old folks? Because I was with someone also yesterday who was of the opinion that it's about time for young people to take over. And I was asking him, well, is it a function of age at this time or a function of the capacity and the potentials that they do have? Young Nigerians this day, I mean, take account. Everyone wants to just get his own share of the national cake. Does that not even make the older generation better?
Well, it is only when you try somebody, you will be in a position to compare.
Have we not tried?
A few of our generational people have not done well. Those that Obasanjo equipped as ministers in his government, they turn out to be looters of the same ministries. Okay. And the EFCC has not been able to perform its function creditably well. Because most of these people, they will just line them up in court as if they are Sunday school children. And then they disperse thereafter. You don't get anything. Nobody has gone to jail for stealing under successive government, both from OBJ, even including the senators.
Okay.
There was a particular senator in charge of power generation.
I'm afraid that we're holding someone on the line.
Okay.
If we can just take this call now. Salisu from Niger. Good morning, Salisu.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, go ahead with the contribution.
My name is Salisu. I'm calling from Niger State.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead with the contribution, Salisu.
My name is Salisu. I'm calling from Niger State. The issue of Obasanjo, the battle between Obasanjo and Goodluck Jonathan is for God to solve it. And we leave everything to God to solve it. Because all the PDP members, even their leaders, if God says that today there is hellfire, because they are not even doing what God wants. All the time they are greedy, they talk about each other, they drag leadership. And they are not even doing things that will favor the masses on the street. When you bring issue of autonomy, they cannot even look after it. People are suffering in the local area. They don't know how masses are suffering. Obasanjo will come out and say that Jonathan is do this, do that. He himself, what did he do before? He also is among the people who destroyed this country. So for us now, I think issue of for that is the issue. It's only God. Even issue of Amechi, the issue of Amechi is the issue of Amechi is a very competent human being. He's a focused leader. What happened between Amechi and Jonathan, and you blame Jonathan. For some people, some educated people will come out, they will say Amechi needs president. He needs it. Amechi doesn't need president. Amechi is after the well-being of the river people. But the wife of Mr. President is trying to hijack the leadership of River State. And as a governor, it's very painful. As a focused leader, you have to challenge that right. So some people coming out say Amechi become because of president. I think they are deceiving themselves. This gentleman knows where he's going. You know what you want for his people. What is happening in the Ekiti State? What Mr. President doesn't play any role there. People are dying. Only seven members are approving budget. It's very wrong. It's a disgrace to Nigeria. And tomorrow they will not say we should come and vote PDP. They will carry their nyama money, their corrupt money, their hellfire money, giving us to say that take 5 naira and go and vote PDP. I think we must put an end to this leadership.
Thank you for your contribution.
We must put an end. We should stop.
I believe you made your point there. But let's just try to be quite objective in the way we contribute and air. Thank you for your contribution, Salisu from Niger. We were talking about this school of thought of older and younger generation at this time in Nigeria.
You see, I have found most of our leaders who are elderly, they are as guilty as the few of us that were tested by them. Because it's like they connived with each other to destroy the economy. Because except in rare cases, I didn't see anybody in jail. If you say that my brother is a thief,
That's right.
and he works for you, and you cannot find him guilty in a proper court of law through FCC, then what are you saying? The man goes to court in the best suit and walk away with people who are sewing uniforms and clapping at him, turning a thief to a superstar overnight. For instance, there was a reason why Doyin Okupe left OBJ's government. It was never addressed by anybody. It was again bulldozed back into the same Aso Rock to come and work for the current person. Didn't that tell you about policy reversal? What goes into the books of the government? How many of these are leaders will actually write books that are objective about your stay in Aso Rock? What I achieved in my first 90 days. These are books for the younger generation to read and see how it is done.
That's right.
Before Obama became president, he has written so many books like General Obasanjo as well. But were they implementing the purpose of that book? I used to have a boss. My boss would sit you down on the day of Christmas, call all the executive management staff, and start teaching us the best of management practices. At the end of the day, we might spend 3 days, eat food, drink, do all sorts of things there in the conference. By the beginning of the new year, you are supposed to implement it in your respective subsidiaries. This man will never approve it. The next thing we ask you is that, is it your father's company? What's your business? So when you look at this kind of thing, that is the way our leaders are. They will teach you what they will not practice. They will criticize others, and they themselves are guilty of the same offense. For instance, we cannot say the elderly people are senile. No. The Jimmy Carters of this world and all the other leaders in America, they normally render advice from time to time, but they will not come to the pages of paper. If the receiver now wants to give credit to you, they will now say that, well, thank you, my former president has just written to me about this and that, and we are trying to look into it and see what we do. Then again, there is no serious transaction between the younger generation and the older generation. So when that communication break is there, you will see that when you see a family of 5, you realize that they talk regularly to each other. And so you already know what your dad will do if you do this. You already know what your son will do if you offer him this or her this. So you look at it from that point of view. We don't have that level of interaction between the leaders and even the followers. Everybody is chasing. If you see somebody pursuing a leader today, it is because of what he wants to gain personally. It is not because he loves the country. We have yet to get to a point where we put the country first before our own interest. The former, or rather, all the existing leaders that are still alive, they are as guilty. They don't put the nation at first. Only when they want to introduce very difficult policies. That is when they tell you in the interest of the nation. This is austerity measure. This is fuel. I want to increase price. From the days of gone, fuel prices have always gone up.
Let's take this call from Maba. It's Zebige. I hope I pronounced that quite well. Good morning. Go ahead with the contribution, please. Hello, are you there? Good morning. I'm afraid we lost that. Please call us again. We'd love to hear from you and what the mood is like in Aba. Well, we're rounding up now, but let's quickly find out what Nigerians should look out for, because this has also dominated the public discourse recently. What Nigerians should look out for in leadership as the elective year draw near.
Well, there are several things we have to look at. We have to look at experience, fundamental. We have to look at qualifications and competence.
It looks like the guy is back on the phone. Good morning, Zabedi.
I'm calling from Adam. Then I want to speak on what is the comment on that is going on now.
Okay.
And this is on our president towards 2015. It's a very interesting something. But we should remember that Nigeria is expecting a lot from you. A lot. And if you know that you do things yourself, what you are doing,
they should try everything possible to, if they are going to meet into the free election, they should try everything possible to take Nigeria to where it's supposed to, because we are suffering. You see that the APC and the PDP fighting each other. People have to look into the economy of this country. So that everywhere we are suffering here and there. And those are the politics they are playing, and they are not mature. There is no maturity. Yesterday, when I was listening, I heard about talking about our speaker. And we found out that this is fighting the speaker, that the party from PDP to APC. Is that what we are here for? Is that what we are here for? We should try to make democracy for us. We want to every day. We come out on the TV, say we do this, we do that, we are not doing anything. So what I want to say that we should start fighting themselves and give them real democracy. And let us start suffering. Based on the state, our president is supposed to talk to the governor. Why should we be working with 27 lawmakers? When that kind of I just understand what is happening in this country. Towards 2015, let them put their acts together, let them gather themselves together. And no say we are looking for a real democracy, not just be there and be talking left, APC talk at this one, PDP talk at this one, fighting themselves. Instead of to give us what we want, and they want us to take us. That is my own contribution. Thank you.
Good to hear from you, Zebedee. Thank you for calling. Well, we're talking about how electorate can identify true and genuine leadership in 2015.
Experience and track record. 2, qualification and competence. 3, principles. What are these principles that we're talking about? We don't want a president who would come tomorrow to another party. That is principle leadership. We're not talking principle as you take a decision, people all over the world will talk to you and you will not listen. No. We're talking about principle as in emphasis and respect on those who have elected you into that office. And you don't get there and turn yourself to a gangster and start jumping from this party to another party simply because your views are not being heard, just like some of these rascal governors did. We can understand the people in the House of Reps, in the Senate, they didn't want to obey their own rules. So that's their problem. Okay. But for people at the level of governorship, you will wait for your term to expire before you start running to another party. That is the kind of principle I expect from leadership. Then ability to focus on the tenet of democracy. There are some basic characters you expect in democracy. Freedom of speech, free press, and what have you. Okay. Somebody who will support the FY bill and all that we're talking about, they're still all part of it.
Before we go on the show, just yesterday we talked about what happened in Ekiti State, where 7 members of the House passed the bill, passed the budget for the state governor. We were also able to speak with the state governor as regards his intention to borrow, because when he came to office, one of the biggest challenges that he had with his predecessor is the amount he borrowed, and he came out to say that he was not going to borrow. So we asked him if he had changed his mind about borrowing. Let's start with a sound from the Ekiti state governor.
That I said that we will not borrow should not be misinterpreted. If you borrow, you must pay within your government, within your tenure. You must, whatever you take as a loan, must be paid within your tenure, so that you do not end up in financial recklessness for people coming behind.
You get about the 19th, because the place was flooded with men and women of caliber, the traditional rulers, the chiefs, the Yalajas and the Yalajas. I don't know, maybe you have their pictures of which you can show that they are conspicuously absent, because that has been your responses in the past. I am sorry. And even the law does not, even presentation doesn't require any number. Go and see what the Constitution says. He said the governor side presents, and he has come here legally, based on how the Constitution spelled it out, that he must be in the assembly to present. Here is not talking about 18. Here is not talking about majority. Here is not talking about minority. Here is not talking about a specific numbers of legislators that should be.
I don't know that. That is not my duty. My duty is not to allow a pressed man in or not. So I'm a press person. But I know we have about 4 or 5 cameras inside there. So I wouldn't have known which camera is disallowed or which is not.
Obviously, journalists are bad from having access into that place. Let me just have your comment on this before we go.
Well, these are small politics, and they are doing small games. It is actually wrong for 7 members to come and approve list of commissioners, list of the budget, and what have you. It is not right. However, a difficult situation will require difficult solution. I think we are providing difficult solutions for their crisis in that state. And since they voted him in, and he was overwhelmingly voted in, they have to pay the price.
You know, some are also asking what Mr. President is actually doing about all of this, that a call across to the governor might have settled this a long time ago.
Well, we will not know whether he has called him, and the man has become defiant. Just like his major supporter, Obasanjo, said he should go to jail. I mean, when you talk to an elderly person like that, you are not praying to be as old as he is. So there are certain things you don't do. Maybe Mr. President had called him and he didn't listen. And Mr. President, once he says it out, that, I called this man, he didn't answer. They will say that, yes, because he's weak. So he may perhaps just decide to keep quiet. For instance, before he even called, what do you call him? Call Fauci there, he ought to have called somebody else. Like the senators from the state, they should have gone to talk to him whether they belong to APC or PDP. So these are all the things.
Okay, this is going to be our last caller on the show, and it's John from Lagos. John, you have 1 minute. Go ahead with the contribution.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You have 1 minute, John.
I'm calling you from Victoria Island.
All right.
I want to make a small contribution on what you are saying.
Okay.
You are talking about the 2015 election. Look, let me tell you something. In Jesus' name, no more PDP in this country again. By the grace of God. Because PDP here run down this country totally. PDP already run down on this country totally. Look at Chibok Girl. They are inside the bush almost 1 year now because there are no Jonathan Pikin there. No more Sambo Pikin. No more Mark Pikin. They don't want to do anything. If it's Jonathan, they will know how to bring the Chibok Girl. They are just using Chibok Girl for contracts to take and collect money to Abuja, bring back again, bring back our girl. Where is the girl? Almost a year now. Where they are? About our problem Ekiti. Fayose is already show where Ekiti is going to Ekiti people. They already removed Ekiti from inside the town. They carry them to inside the bush again. When 7 people are signing budget, where there's no more any party there, only PDP. Fayose already showed them the way. But I'm telling you, by the grace of God, no more PDP in this country again. Thank you.
I believe you made your point there, John. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, Nanuga, thank you for joining us today on Call That. It's good to have you always. A big thank you to all of our callers. We had Pascal called in from Abuja, Tambali from Sokoto, Ahmed. We had a dropped call from Ahmed from Sokoto. We hope that you'll be able to join us tomorrow at the show. Abubakar called in from Kebbi, John from Jazz, Ibrahim from Kano, and then we had to Chuku, one of our regular callers from Anambra, Salisu called in from Niger, Zebedee from Aba, and now, of course, our last caller was John from Lagos. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. The show continues tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and it runs all the way down 11. Stick around for the top of the hour news.
Core TV News, expanding your view.